Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are tackling, well, probably the biggest puzzle facing organizations right now. It's what the research is calling the Gen AI paradox.
Yeah, it's quite striking. There's this huge disconnect. You've got, what, almost 8 out of 10 companies reporting they're actively using generative AI tools. I mean, it seems like it's everywhere.
Everywhere. But then,
But then you look at the impact, and just as many, actually over 80% of those same companies, are saying they see no significant material contribution to their earnings. None.
that is just a massive head scratcher, isn't it? We have this tech that analysts estimate could unlock somewhere between 2.6 and maybe $4.4 trillion in global value.
Trillion. Yeah.
Adoption soared. It jumped from like 55% of companies using AI a year ago to over 78% now. Crazy growth. And yet the CFOs are still scratching their heads asking, so where's the actual return? So our mission today is really to unpack that imbalance, why the gap, and then explore how this next step, AI agents, might finally bridge it, shifting Gen AI from being just a reactive tool to something proactive, goal-driven,
Yeah.
a virtual collaborator that can actually deliver scalable, measurable impact.
And I think to really get the solution, we first have to properly understand the problem, the imbalance itself. That first wave of Gen AI, it was all about getting it out there, democratization. Super easy to get started.
Right, everyone could try it.
But the data is pretty stark. Only, 1% of companies feel their AI strategies are actually mature right now. And that 80% number, no material contribution, it just hammers home that simply deploying the tech widely doesn't equal deep, meaningful transformation.
Okay, so let's break down that imbalance.
Yeah.
It seems to play out in the types of projects companies went for first. You've got the easy stuff, the horizontal use cases.
Yeah, those are the co-pilots, the chatbots, the tools that work across the whole enterprise, the things people got excited about initially because they were, off the shelf, pretty low friction to roll out.
Like the Microsoft 365 Copilot example, nearly 70% of the Fortune 500 using it. That's massive horizontal spread.
Huge spread. But the benefit tends to be quite diffuse. It's individual productivity, right? You draft an email a bit faster, you summarize a long document. It's helpful, sure, but
But hard to measure in dollars and cents for the company overall. It doesn't really change the core business performance.
precisely, it doesn't move the needle financially in a big way.
Okay, so that makes sense. The real promise, the big value, was supposed to come from the vertical use cases, the stuff that's specific to a function, tackling core processes, supply chains, financial modeling, things with, a much clearer line to economic impact.
Exactly where the potential lies. But the research really lays bare the tough reality here. Fewer than 10% of those high-value vertical projects ever actually make it out of the pilot stage.
Only 10%. Wow. Why? Why do they get stuck?
Well, they tend to operate reactively. They focus on just one small, isolated task within a much bigger process. Instead of, orchestrating the whole thing end to end, they just get stuck in limbo.
So let's dig into that stuckness. Why do
Mhm.
they stall?
The data suggests it's a mix, right? Organizational issues and tech limits. If you're trying to scale one of these vertical apps, what are the main roadblocks?
Well, you can definitely start with the organizational side. Inertia is a big one. The data points to fragmentation. Fewer than 30% of companies say the CEO is really sponsoring the AI agenda top down.
So without that C-suite push.
You just get hundreds of little scattered experiments, different
But that's-
departments doing their own thing, none of it connected, none of it scaling.
And because these are function specific, it's not like you can just buy a solution off the shelf. You need custom work, right?
Absolutely. Unlike a generic chatbot, you need custom development, which is, well, it's expensive and slow. You're building from the ground up.
Resource intense, hugely. And then you layer on the technical limitations, especially of those first-gen LLMs. They were fundamentally passive. They wouldn't do anything unless a human explicitly told them to, step by step.
Right, the prompt response cycle. And they had issues with accuracy too, didn't they? The whole hallucination problem.
Yes, exactly. Generating plausible sounding but factually wrong stuff. That made them way too risky for anything requiring high precision compliance, legal, finance.
Okay.
And they just couldn't handle complexity well. Multi-step workflows were a struggle. And critically, they lacked persistent memory. They couldn't really learn or maintain context over longer interactions or processes.
So you add all that up. The tech limits, the siloed teams, the resistance to change, data quality problems, and it's like the perfect storm for pilot purgatory.
It really was. Keeps those high-value projects stuck.
Okay, so if that first generation was fundamentally passive, stuck at the prompt level, how does the agent architecture change the game?
Yeah.
How does it give AI actual agency? Let's talk about the breakthrough. What's technically different about an AI agent compared to, say, a really smart chatbot?
It's a real evolution. We're moving beyond just generating content or answering questions. An agent is engineered specifically for autonomous, goal-driven execution.
Execution, okay.
So it takes that powerful LLM core, the language understanding part, but then it surrounds it with other crucial tech components. Things like persistent memory, so it can remember context and learn over time. Sophisticated planning capabilities, so it can figure out how to achieve a goal. Orchestration tools to manage tasks, and integration capabilities to connect with other systems and actually do things.
So it's not just chatting. It's like it can run its own little project plan autonomously inside the company's systems.
That's a great way to put it. It's a conceptual leap. An agent can understand a high-level goal, not just a simple prompt like write an email, but something like resolve this customer shipping issue. It then breaks that goal down into the necessary subtasks,
Okay.
figures out the best sequence, maybe checks inventory, processes a refund, uptakes the CRM, sends a notification. It executes those steps across different systems. It only pulls in a human when it hits something novel or needs a judgment call.
Right. That capability lets you automate those really complex multi-step business workflows that were just off limits before.
Exactly. That's the real breakthrough.
And that takes us way beyond just making individuals slightly faster. It sounds like real operational transformation. The research breaks this down into, 5 key ways agents boost agility and speed? Let's start with the first one, acceleration.
Right. Acceleration. This means agents can eliminate delays by basically doing things in parallel. Think about, say, onboarding a new employee. Traditionally, that might involve 3 different departments handing tasks off sequentially. It takes days, maybe weeks.
Yeah, lots of waiting time.
Agents can manage many of those tasks simultaneously. Provisioning access, setting up payroll, ordering equipment across different systems. It collapses the cycle time dramatically.
Okay, parallel processing.
Yeah.
Then there's adaptability. This one sounds really interesting. It's not just following a fixed script.
Precisely. Adaptability means the agent is constantly taking in real-time data and adjusting its plan or process as it goes. If, say, a certain task sequence isn't working well because a system is down, or maybe resource availability changes, the agent can reroute the workflow, try a different approach, or flag the anomaly immediately. It's like having a process that can self-correct, making the whole workflow inherently smarter over time.
Okay, cool. And what about elasticity?
Elasticity is basically applying the cloud computing idea to work capacity. An agent's ability to execute tasks can scale up or down instantly based on the workload. Think seasonal peaks, unexpected surges.
Right, you don't have the lag of hiring or reassigning people.
Exactly. You escape that rigid fixed cost structure of traditional human resources. You get dynamic capacity that matches demand in real time. Very efficient.
Now, you also mentioned resilience. At first glance, that sounds a bit like just good IT monitoring. How is an agent making, say, a supply chain more resilient than just having a dashboard that flags problems?
Yeah, good question. That's where the agency part really kicks in. A traditional dashboard tells you there's a delay at a port. Okay, now a human has to figure out what to do.
Right.
An agent, on the other hand, monitors for that disruption, identifies potential alternative routes or suppliers, maybe even simulates the cost and time impacts of switching, and then automatically initiates the rerouting action. It might even update the affected customers, all potentially before a human even logs in. It doesn't just inform, it proactively acts to maintain operations.
Okay, that's a big difference. Proactive action. So that moves us nicely to the top line. Beyond just saving time or making things run smoother, agents seem to offer a real path to actually boosting revenue or even creating new revenue streams. How does that work practically?
Well, for amplification, think about embedding agents directly into customer-facing apps, e-commerce sites, banking apps, that sort of thing. They can analyze a user's real-time behavior, what's in their cart, their history, everything, and then surface these incredibly tailored upselling or cross-selling offers right in the moment. It's personalization, but at machine speed and scale.
Hyper-personalization.
Yeah.
And creation.
Yeah.
Generating totally new ways to make money.
Yeah, this is really exciting. A great example is in industrial companies. You embed agents into connected equipment, think large machinery, medical devices. The agent monitors how the equipment is actually being used. And based on usage patterns, it could autonomously unlock premium features or maybe trigger a preventive maintenance service proactively. This lets companies shift from just selling a product once to offering ongoing value through pay-per-use or subscription models. much more resilient revenue.
Inter-
And organizations could even package up their internal expertise, maybe complex tax advice or legal interpretation into specialized SaaS agents, and sell that automated expertise directly to clients as a new service.
Okay, let's make this concrete. We need some real-world examples. The first one mentioned involves bank modernization, trying to rewrite those huge, complex, ancient legacy applications. That's usually a painfully slow manual slog.
It typically is, yeah, years and millions of dollars. But in this agentic approach, the human developers were shifted into more supervisory roles. They oversaw squads of AI
Oh,
agents.
the agents.
Yeah, specialized agents doing different tasks. Some documented the old legacy code, others wrote the new code based on the documentation, and some agents even reviewed the code written by other agents for quality control and to make sure it all integrated properly.
Wow. So the human role changes completely. You go from doing the tedious coding and checking yourself to managing the overall velocity and quality of this agent workforce.
Exactly. Strategic oversight. And the early results from teams trying this showed over 50% reduction in the time and effort needed for these huge modernization projects. That's a massive, immediate ROI for banks stuck on old tech.
50% is huge. Okay, another example. Generating credit risk memos in a bank. Everyone who's worked near finance knows these complex mandatory documents. The relationship manager, RM, usually spends ages wrestling data from like 10 different places just to draft the thing. Pure admin
A
drudgery.
total admin burden. The RM's time should be spent on strategy and client relationships, not data hunting and copy pasting. So in the new process, the agent takes over that initial heavy lifting.
How so?
The agent autonomously pulls all the required data from those 10 plus internal and external sources. Then it drafts the initial sections of the memo. And this is key. It also generates confidence scores for different parts of the draft it produced.
Ah, so the RM immediately sees where the data might be uncertain or where their human judgment is most needed.
Precisely. They shift from being a manual drafter to a strategic reviewer and exception handler. They focus their expertise where it matters most. The projection here is something like a 20 to 60% jump in RM productivity,
Impressive.
and potentially even more important, maybe a 30% faster credit turnaround time. That means quicker decisions for the business.
That really highlights the difference between just marginal gains and genuine transformation.
Hmm.
But it also brings up a critical point. You can't just drop these powerful agents into a workflow designed back in, 1995 and expect magic.
Absolutely not. You really can't. If you just bolt an agent onto an existing clunky legacy process, you might get some small efficiency gains. Maybe what the research calls level 1 or level 2 improvement, minor stuff.
Yep.
The real breakthrough, the level 3 impact, that requires fundamentally reimagining the entire process. You have to step back and ask, if we assumed an agent could handle, say, 80% of the steps here autonomously, what would this whole function look like?
The call center example given really drives this home. Level 1 is basic.
Mm.
The GenAI just summarizes the customer's call history for the human agent. Maybe they resolve the call 5% faster. Small improvement.
Incremental. But at level 3 transformation, the agent is doing way more. It's proactively detecting common problems itself, maybe a failed payment, a delayed shipment. It then initiates the automated resolution, processes the refund, reorders the item, updates the systems,
And communicates directly with the customer.
and communicates directly with the customer, often resolving the issue before the customer even knew they needed to call. The human agent only gets involved for the complex, tricky, novel situations where judgment is really needed. That kind of reinvention is where you see the huge impact numbers. Potentially 80% of common incidents resolved autonomously,
Wow.
leading to a 60 to 90% cut in the average time it takes to resolve an issue. That's game-changing.
That kind of scale, though, it sounds like it needs a completely new technical foundation. You can't just run thousands of these agents on old infrastructure, right? Scaling brings new risks. Agents going rogue, uncontrolled autonomy, agent sprawl. This leads to the need for a new architecture, the agentic AI mesh.
Yes, exactly. We have to move beyond the static, LLM-centric infrastructure of the first wave. We need something much more dynamic, modular, and importantly, governed. The agentic AI mesh is essentially the architectural paradigm needed to handle the complexity and the risks that come with having potentially thousands of these autonomous systems cooperating across the enterprise.
So what are the key ideas behind this mesh? What makes it different?
There are a few core principles. First is composability. This means you should be able to easily plug in different agents or tools, whether you build them yourself or buy them off the shelf, without needing massive re-engineering every time, like Lego bricks.
Okay, modularity.
Second is distributed intelligence. Instead of trying to build one giant monolithic agent that does everything, which is brittle and complex, the mesh relies on networks of smaller, specialized agents that cooperate to solve complex problems.
Makes sense. And vendor neutrality.
Crucial. This means relying on open standards for communication and coordination between agents. Things like A2A protocols, agent-to-agent communication, and MCP, multi-agent coordination protocols. Using open standards prevents vendor lock-in.
Okay, let's translate that for a business leader.
Right.
Why should they care about A2A or MCP? What's the benefit of pushing for these open standards?
The benefit is flexibility, future-proofing, and security. These standards are like the common language and traffic rules that allow your custom-built sales agent to securely and effectively talk to, say, an off-the-shelf inventory management agent from a different vendor. It's the framework that ensures they can cooperate reliably and safely without being locked into one provider's ecosystem.
Got it. It enables that mix and match composability.
Exactly, and this also implies a shift in team structure, by the way. You need people like MLOps, engineers, specialists in managing and governing AI models once they're live in production, embedded right into these transformation squads alongside the business experts and architects.
Right. The tech seems ready, or at least getting there rapidly, but the sources we looked at are really clear on this. The biggest challenges moving forward probably won't be technical. They're organizational. It seems to boil down to coordination, judgment, and ultimately trust between humans and these increasingly autonomous agents.
Absolutely spot on. That's the crux of it. The first major dimension is what the research calls human-agent cohabitation. As these agents get more autonomous, we need crystal clear rules of engagement. When is it okay for an agent to just act? When must it stop and ask a human for guidance or approval? Building trust relies heavily on transparency and predictable agent behavior.
Predictability, yeah.
Yeah.
And that ties into the second dimension, autonomy control. We're literally giving software the power to make decisions and take actions in the real world independently. That raises some serious governance questions.
It really does. How do you stop an agent from getting, say, too aggressive with ordering inventory? Or maybe pushing out a price change prematurely? And critically, how do you ensure those autonomous actions aren't based on one of those underlying LLM hallucinations, plausible but wrong information?
Needs robust checks and balances.
Far more sophisticated auditing and guardrails than we needed for passive AI. And then there's the third dimension, which frankly should keep executives up at night. Sprawl containment. As it gets easier for people to build agents, maybe using low-code tools,
You risk chaos.
you risk a whole new kind of shadow IT. An uncontrolled explosion of little agents popping up everywhere, built by different teams for different purposes, often redundant, probably ungoverned.
Nightmare for security and costs.
Exactly. Without strong governance tracking who built what agent, why it exists, who maintains it, when it should be retired, your agent ecosystem could quickly become incredibly fragile, expensive to run, and a massive security headache. Managing agent sprawl has to be a C-suite priority.
So all this really points to one thing. The era of just dipping toes in the water, cautious experimentation, that's basically over now, isn't it?
Yeah.
The CEO needs to step in and mandate a fundamental reset of the whole AI transformation approach.
That's the message. The focus has to shift away from scattered, tactical little projects towards strategic, coordinated programs aimed at reinventing entire business processes from the ground up. The key question changes. It's not, where can I sprinkle some AI in this function? It becomes, what would this entire function look like if agents were running 60% of it, freeing up our people for high-value strategic work and complex customer interactions?
And that requires a different kind of team.
Definitely. Durable, cross-functional teams. You need the business process experts, the AI architects, the data scientists, the MLOps engineers, all working together from start to finish. And there needs to be an expectation of industrialized, scalable delivery, not just endless pilots.
We also need to be realistic about the costs, right? These agentic systems, especially running in a mesh, they can have significant ongoing operational costs, sometimes exceeding the initial build cost.
That's a critical point. This isn't just a project budget anymore. It's becoming core infrastructure spending. It needs to be planned for, which is why you see interesting structural moves like Moderna merging its HR and IT leadership roles. It's a signal that AI is now seen as a fundamental workforce shipping force, not just a tech tool. So when you pull it all together, what really stands out is that agents seem to be the most viable path we have right now to solving that initial Gen AI paradox. They unlock the ability to scale those high-value vertical use cases through autonomy, but only if coupled with that deep organizational redesign and process reinvention. The time for just exploring is ending. The time for systemic, industrialized transformation is definitely here.
It really feels like we're at a potential tipping point, a moment of huge strategic divergence.
Yeah.
If companies get this right, agents offer a genuine chance, even for laggards, to leapfrog competitors. They can rewire their operations for speed and adaptability,
But
but
if they get it wrong, or worse, just ignore it.
they risk falling behind fast. They could see more agile competitors using agents to grab efficiency gains and generate revenue in ways they just can't match. It could actually accelerate the decline of some established market leaders.
A real possibility.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, our listener. Think about your own organization. What's a core process that's currently slow, expensive, maybe bogged down by rigid, sequential steps, and lots of manual coordination overhead? Now imagine you could hand over 60% of the execution in that process to an autonomous agent. What would that look like? How would it change things? Because that process, the one you just pictured, might just be your competitive starting line in the age of AI agents.